So the other week, we discussed the border bill chaos that was going on in Washington, D.C. Just to give everybody the Cliff Notes version of that. What happened was the Republicans had been crowing and whining and bitching and moaning about the crisis at the border, and you got all these migrants coming in, and it's a huge problem. And Democrats have largely been like, hey, I agree. That's a really big problem. Let's address it. Now, the thing that Democrats, they say is like, oh, this is the biggest crisis, and this is what we need to address first, is more funding for Ukraine to fight off Russia, some money for Taiwan, and more money for Israel. So I know it's amazing thinking about in the midst of them doing a genocide, we're like, we need to immediately get them more money. It's necessary. It's vital. Like, they look at 500,000 homeless Americans, they're like, yawn. But they look at Israel doing a genocide, being fully armed, and they're like, we must give them more weapons so they can make sure to continue the genocide. I mean, it's just, the values are so warped and disgusting. You guys know that it has to do with the Israel lobby, it has to do with the military-industrial complex, it has to do with stale establishment thinking, like all the reasons. We don't need to get into the whole, like, it's terrible, right? But it's terrible. You know the basics. So what they agreed on doing is, okay, Democrats value Ukraine, Taiwan, and Israel money. Republicans, by the way, also value Israel money deeply, okay? But Republicans are more the border. So Biden and the Democrats and Chuck Schumer in the Senate, they're like, let's negotiate. They spoke to James Langford, Republican senator, and they came up with this bill that's very restrictionist on abortion, very restrictionist on immigration. We went through if you want to know the details of it, you could look at the other segments that I did on it where I go through provision for provision. Hey, here's what's in the bill. Just know it was very, very restrictionist. It's the most extreme right-wing border bill reform that's been proposed for decades and decades and decades, okay? Because normally in these negotiations, Democrats say, yes, we'll give you more funding for border patrol and more of a crackdown at the border. But in exchange for that, we need to do a path to citizenship for the people who have been here and they're law-abiding, et cetera, et cetera. We need to protect the dreamers, et cetera, et cetera. You know the spiel. This time, the Democrats were like, fuck the dreamers, fuck path to citizenship. We don't care. We'll give you whatever you want on the border, Republicans, as long as you give us Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan funding. Okay. So they negotiated. Guess what? At the last minute, when it looked like there was a deal, Langford and Schumer on the same page, everything, Donald Trump comes out and gives a rally speech and says, kill it. Kill the deal. And his little sycophantic MAGA ball coddlers in the House of Representatives were like, yes, Daddy, yes, I'll do whatever you want. And so they said, this thing's dead on arrival. We're not even going to have a vote on it in the House. Mike Johnson was like, yes, dear leader, I'll do whatever you want. So they effectively killed it, okay? Now, the Republicans in the Senate, they really had no choice but to go along with this, right? And Langford ended up being against the bill that he freaking wrote. This happened with Marco Rubio a while back too, by the way, in the Obama years. Just so embarrassing, right? Shamed out of your own stance. Why? Because the entire Republican Party, revolves around Trump, period. He controls them. That simple. If you're a Republican with power, you genuflect at the altar of Trump. So he kills it, but it's not like Republicans, particularly in the Senate, some in the House, but mostly in the Senate. It's not like these Republicans don't understand how absurd this situation is. Why? Because the Republicans all want Israel funding because they're psychopathic genocidal freaks, and they all want to crack down on the border because they're all massively restrictionist. So the bill had what they wanted, and they still said no. So now you got this internal war going on in the Republican caucus where the MAGA types are looking at the traditional Republicans and they're like, you guys are all a bunch of sellouts working with the Biden administration and trying to give him a W before the election. And the traditional Republicans are looking at the MAGA wing like, you fucking idiots believe in absolutely nothing. If Trump says jump, you say how high. And so they're going at it. So here CNN spoke to some of these Republicans, and this is very interesting.
When you are handed the keys to the kingdom, as it were, when you have the majority, there is an expectation that you will be able to govern, and we've just struggled with that over and over again.
I was embarrassed for our conference, for our party, because we can do better than we did last night.
He didn't count votes. I think he will next time.
Shouldn't he count the votes before coming to the floor?
I think he relied, in his defense, on other people to sway some people. He needs to count votes before it comes to the floor. This message of not impeaching Mayorkas sent a wrong message, I think. He needs to count, make sure. And as bad as Pelosi was, she knew her votes before it took place.
That is as close as you're ever going to get to a Republican compliment for Nancy Pelosi. Hey, she always knew how everybody was going to vote. She always had everything, in order and ready to go. Damn, they're saying this was a mess. You heard one of them say, this is embarrassing for our caucus. Again, why? Why is it embarrassing? Because you guys said we want more border funding. We want to crack down. We want to restrict. We also want money for Israel. And the Democrats were like, sure, let's do all that. And then they were like, no, I don't want to do that. It's just like with Obamacare, right? Obamacare was a right-wing idea from the Heritage Foundation, an individual mandate-style healthcare reform. Then Obama comes out in favor of it, and all the Republicans are like, no, I'm against the idea that I proposed 3 years ago now. And it's just goofy. Now, by the way, let's be clear, I'm not exonerating the Democrats on this. Because the Democrats are just being Republicans. They proposed, here's a Republican bill for the Republicans, and the Republicans still said no. So it's this weird politics makes for strange bedfellows moment where I actually agree with the MAGA hardliners because they were trying to kill this bill. In their mind, they say we're killing it because it's too weak and we don't want to give Biden a win. I'm saying I'm killing it because it's too restrictive. You don't even have, no longer even the option for asylum or due process. They say, forget due process. We're done with due process. That's not a thing anymore. We're going to end that. We're going to end that. Well, I don't think that's something that's negotiable. I don't think that's debatable. I think a civilized nation has due process, and that's the end of the conversation. Should we have more facilities down there and more immigration judges to speed up the process and get answers quicker? Absolutely. But to say no due process at all, we're done here, that's just un-American. And that's against civil rights and human rights. So, but again, it just shows how much of a clown, or all of D.C., it's just a clown show, man. The Democrats went, I am now a Republican in every way, shape, and form. And the Republicans went, no, I hate my own ideas. I hate them. And it's all because Trump said, I don't want to give Biden a win before the election. So, I don't know, man. These guys are all there. They don't believe in anything. They're all corrupt goons. The MAGA caucus is just the Trump ball-coddling party. Whatever he's in favor of, they would flip just like that because they want to save their ass politically and they're afraid of a mean tweet from Donald Trump directed at them. And look, internally, as you can see from this video, they know they're a joke. They know this is pathetic. They know this makes them look bad. And it did make them look bad. As much as the Democrats were just like, hey, we are Republicans now, to turn on everything you said you believed in is somehow more embarrassing. And I think that's going to be the takeaway from voters, at least, that these guys they can't govern shit. They just can't do it. They can't do the most basic things anymore. It's like how we always have, a fight over the debt limit, right? Well, that's not supposed to be something that's debatable. The whole point of it is, are you going to pay the bills that you already accrued? And to fight over that, we will not do that. It's like, what are you doing? What is this? So anyway, there we are. Absolutely embarrassing. They know it's embarrassing. And this is probably why, in all of the special elections, in the midterms, Democrats did way better than everybody expected. There was no red wave. It was a red trickle. And then every special election since then, the Republicans are getting draxed, right? They should consider themselves super lucky that they're up against a guy whose brain is now oatmeal. Because that's the only reason why they're basically leading in the presidential polls, right? Is because Joe Biden's their opponent. But a generic Democrat would kick their fucking ass. They absolutely would. That's why the Democrats have swept in these special elections that have happened since the midterms. And it looks like the smarter ones in the caucus, they know that. They know that. And these are the conversations. This is what they're telling CNN. Imagine what they're saying privately to other Republicans. The ones who are really are traditional establishment Republicans are looking around like, these motherfuckers believe in nothing. They believe in absolutely nothing, and I don't know what to do about that. Yeah, I don't either. The only thing I'd say to Democrats is stop also being Republicans to own them. Yeah, you got your little hypocrisy burn, but at what cost? At what cost? Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.